Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans. Yes, people. Welcome to another Caribbean Cricket Podcast, Super 50, CG United Super 50 special episode. Thus far, we've looked at the Leeward Island Hurricanes, the Barbados Pride, the Jamaica Scorpions, and just as the match is about to start, I got my times wrong. I forgot the clocks had gone forward or back or whatever had happened, and therefore got my timing wrong. So I'm recording this just as Trinidad are about to start their campaign and their first game against CCC. But Trinidad and Tobago Red Force are the defending champions, so it's only right that we look in depth at the defending champions. They won it at a canter the last time we had Super 50, all the way back in about February 2021 during the midst of the pandemic. A Super 50 was held, and Trinidad called the band back together. Everybody who's anybody in Trinidad came out for that tournament, and they smashed everyone on the way to winning Super 50. When that tournament happened, though, I just naturally assumed, like this is the band getting back together for their final dance. And they'll go off into the sunset together, having smashed everybody to pieces and proven that Trinidad still are the best white ball team. I know they didn't win CPL, but are still the best white ball team in general when it comes to Caribbean cricket. Well, lo and behold, people, when the Red Force announced their squad for Super 50 2022, I saw some of the same names coming back yet again for another Super 50. And I'm not going to lie, people, I'm surprised. I'm surprised at the presence of certain names. But just as we've done with the other teams, with the Scorpions, I brought in Jerome Foster from Radio Jamaica. For Leeward Islands, I brought in Vernon Springer from Bass Sports. For Barbados, I brought on Nikhil Uttamchandani. And with the Red Force, I'm bringing back a long-time associate of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, Dino Mahabir is coming back on, analyst, broadcaster, commentator, all sorts, coach, everything. Dino's back on to look at the Trinidad and Tobago Red Force team. So without any further ado, let me bring Dino onto the screen. 1 second, people. Yes, Dino, how you doing?
All good, Mash. It's been a minute, but we're back. The Super 50 is here, brought to you by the West Indies World Cup team, joining the Trinidad Red Force. It's good to be back. My dog is making noise as usual. Let's get into it, Mash. Let's go straight into the Red Force team. I'm going to have to try not to be controversial.
Well, I wouldn't expect anything different from you. But before we go there, Dino, because I've got my timings wrong, you did tell me off record just before we started, and because I didn't even realize that the teams are out. Can you just say for the people the Trinidad team as we record this?
Yeah, so they're playing the CCC right now. They've won the toss, chosen to field, so they are in the field. CCC batting. The team is Nicholas Pooran, captain, Josh De Silva, wicketkeeper, Sunil Narain, Keon Otley, Darren Bravo, Akil Hussain, Jaden Seals, Jason Mohammed, Shannon Gabriel, Jed Gully, and Yannick Karaya. That's the starting 11. Who's going to open the batting? That's the first thing I'm asking on that team. But no real surprises there. Jed Gully gets a look in for Trinidad. That's going to be exciting. He's done well in the warm-up game versus the Windwards in a finisher role. So, yeah, that's what we're playing with. Yeah.
And that's a perfect segue into looking at the team itself. So let me bring up the squad that has been announced. Let me just move us. Let's go down. No, let's go here. So just let me call the Trinidad and Tobago Red Force squad in general. And as Dino says, bolstered by the returning TNT players who went to the failed World Cup campaign. So Nicholas Pooran, captain, Sunil Narain, Josh De Silva, Evan Lewis, Akil Hussain, Anderson Phillip, Darren Bravo, Imran Khan, Jason Mohammed, Jaden Seals, Jeremy Solazano, Jai Gooley, Kari Pierre, Kieran Otley, Mark Dayal, Shannon Gabriel, Terence Hines, and Yannick Correa. Now, it's a stacked squad. Before we go into it and before I come to Dino, the first thing people need to be wary of is that Anderson Phillip and Jaden Seals will leave after the first round of Super 50. So that's about 3 games. They will leave to join the West Indies test squad in Australia. So that will somewhat weaken, I say somewhat, quite significantly weaken the TNT's fast bowling cadre for the remainder of the tournament. But every team is losing somebody to that Australia Test Series. TNT are no different in that regard, but their squad is still obvious. Oh, Josh De Silva, sorry. Josh De Silva will be going to Australia as well. So they will lose Josh De Silva from, I presume, from the top order. I would hope he's taken a top order role in this TNT side. So he will go as well. So Dino, like I've said with every other guest for every other team, first things first, your first thoughts on the Trinidad side.
Yeah, I mean, well, first thing I was hoping to lose Akil Hussain and Yannick Correa to the test team. That didn't happen. Hopefully in the future it can. But a few surprises here. The first name, of course, Sunil Narayan, that pops out. I asked the question, is he's not going to play for the ODI and ODIs for West Indies, is he? So do we need Sunil Narayan in the team? I have to put it out there publicly. It's just a question. Do we need Sunil Narayan in this team when we've got guys like Mark Dial and Jed Gully coming through? Maybe these guys need more of an opportunity in the ODI format, especially we're building towards a World Cup now. West Indies actually rebuilding from scratch, if you really look at it. So, is it the time for Narayan? That's a concern. There's a guy who's not in the team. That's Amir Jangu, who played for Leewards, plays for Talawas. He's a professional cricketer from Trinidad, but can't play for Trinidad. That's another question I've got in there. But, Marshall, no real surprises here. That's my door squeaking. No real surprises, but those are 2 questions I have. And it comes to mind that question of experience versus youth. Do you want to win, or is development more important?
Well, let's touch on Sunil ever so. Let's go into a tiny bit more, because it is a massive talking point. Because Sunil isn't going to be playing for the West Indies going forward, you would assume, in any capacity. Turned down, or did he offer his duties? Did he not? Dino has to tend to his dog people, but it's cool.
Yeah.
He turned down potentially going to the T20 World Cup. Hasn't played for West Indies now in, I think, well over 3 years. I'm not saying that a professional cricketer shouldn't eat a bit of food and play for their nation should their nation call them. But there does also come a point where Sunil has to maybe say, you know what, for the greater good of Trinidad and Tobago cricket, let me not take this pick. And I just wonder Sunil's thinking about why he's playing. Because he must know that the cricket media, sports media will say, well, hold on. Man can play for Trinidad. It's similar to Hetmeyer. Hetmeyer can play for Guyana, but he can't catch a plane to the World Cup. So Sunil can play for Trinidad, but he can't give up services for West Indies. And I think by choosing to play for Trinidad, and like I say, he's well within his rights to accept national duty. For all I know, Sunil is a massive Trinidad and Tobago patriot and could never say no to representing TNT. And he's well within his rights for that. But he must accept that questions will be then called about, well, hold on, where does West Indies fit into this conversation?
Yeah, man. Absolutely. And then, Marsh, for me, when I look at selecting a team or any analyst who works with stats, you try to match their stats to a monetary value. That's what these guys do in auctions, right? That's where the big money analysts are. And they are used by every major franchise. The richest franchise in the team use analysts. If I were to apply it to this, it's important to have roles. And let's go with Sunil Narayan again. Is he blocking an off-spinner role by being there? Is he going to open the batting with that starting 11 there? There's Kieran Otley as an opening bat. There's no other opening bat other than Josh De Silva or Sunil Narayan. Either one of those guys are going to open the bat. So is he blocking a finisher role and an off-spin role? Is he blocking an opening bat role and an off-spin role? And that's the way I look at it. And we have a lot of options in Trinidad right now And that's the way I see it. We could give a young upcoming guy who's been around the scene, not just fresh legs, someone who's been around the scene, an opportunity to build an ODI career. And that's as simple as it is for me, Mash. A guy like Sunil Narayan has a lot of opportunities all over the world. And many say, just to end it, that he doesn't play for West Indies because of his action. Some say his action is suspect. He's on 2 calls. If he gets a third call, he's banned for life. That's my understanding of the rules, and therefore he's protecting himself. I'm going to assume that he says playing for Red Force gives him an opportunity to work on his action, right? I'm going to assume that. That's just me. But if you look at him in T20 throughout the world, he's dominated. He's in prime form right now, like the form of his life in every T20 league he's played in. But I just think this is where he should let someone like a Mark Dial, someone like a Jed Gooley, who plays a similar role, get an opportunity.
Now, it's also worth saying that it's not like others haven't stepped away. So Pollard's not playing, for example. Ravi Rampal's not playing, for example. So I say this to say that there was an option. There is an option there to not offer your services. Otherwise, Pollard could easily have said, well, you know what, I fancy another tilt at getting Super 50. Let me come play and potentially block someone's pathway as well. So I do get the argument here about how Sunil might have wanted to consider the greater good for Trinidad. But like I say, national pride is national pride. Speaking of national pride, Dino, Nicholas Pooran. Now, on one of our podcasts, Santoki and I discussed prior to Pooran's selection, I think it was in the midst of the World Cup, or when the World Cup was just ending up in terms of West Indies campaign. We said maybe Nicholas needs a break now. It's been a long, long summer of white ball duty captaining the West Indies. And to me, Dino, he looked mentally frazzled out there. That's my personal opinion. I've got no evidence to go on whether that's true or not, but he looked frazzled. Even in CPL, I think he looked a bit off in terms of the Pooran that we know and what his ceiling is, right? Then goes to the World Cup. We have a horrendous World Cup. Everyone's cussing Pooran, cussing Phil, cussing everything. I would have thought that Pooran might have just wanted to get away from it for a bit and just say, you know what, Trinidad and Tobago, sorry, it's Trinidad and Tobago, but I need a break from cricket. Are you surprised to not only A, see him in the squad, but B, agree to captain the squad as well?
No surprise, Marsh. He's got to be there. After that World Cup, he's got to come and step up. He's contracted as the West Indies white ball captain, isn't he? So he's got to represent here now in our domestic tournament, to show some sort of face, to show that he is working on his game, that he's going to improve, and he's capable of leading an ODI team. With this team, you expect him to go into the knockout rounds or get very far, even the final with this team. I don't think he would rest. I would expect more from him. And this is his opportunity now. He comes into a Trinidad team. I think the main criticism of Pooran with Australia was his tactical captaincy in those conditions, how the way that he used his bowlers in those conditions. He's been pretty good as a captain in the Caribbean, knowing Caribbean conditions, knowing Trinidad conditions, and using a lot of spin with our guys. So I think he's just going to fall into a natural mold. He's going to have the support of senior guys like Bravo, like Narayan, I guess, and Jason Mohammed. All of these guys on the team, Akil Hussain and himself have formed a good partnership. So I think he'll be all right. Is he going to score runs? That's my main concern. And, it's a learning curve for him. Whatever happened to Pooran in Australia, I don't think it's going to happen again if that situation arises. I will say the one thing, though, Mash, so I'm in full support of Pooran doing his thing. He needs to keep playing cricket consistently. I'll just go back to one thing with the Narayan that you touched on. Guys like Pollard didn't turn out. Ramden was there in the trials. Riyad Emirates was there in the trials. We didn't see Ravi Rampal. He was the leading pacer for Trinidad in the last season. Ramden's gone now to the CCC. And I think that's the way to go with experience. The CCC need a guy like Ramden. All right. When Trinidad gets depleted, when the two pacers go off to the test team, we're left with Gabriel and Hines. Is that going to be enough? I think maybe a Rampal could have been in there. So while I'm saying it's horses for courses, Ramden will bring a world of experience to that CCC team. And I think Rampal could have been used here in this team, honestly. And That's how the way I really feel. So it's not just about singling out all these older players and saying get off of the team. It's about roles. It's about knowing what you have in your closet. And I'll go into one thing, March, just to speed it along a bit. It's concerning that we do not see a leg spinner. Okay, Imran Khan is 38 years old. In this game, Correa gets the nod. So he's going to be our leg spinner, let's say for 2-3 years. But where is the specialist leg spinner anywhere in the Caribbean? Where is
Yeah.
that coming from? Right?
Mm.
And I would have liked to see a specialist leg spinner. We have some in Trinidad instead of Imran Khan at 38. Right? And that's not a personal attack on anyone, guys. Listen to the podcast. Listen to what I'm saying. Horses for courses. Roles and rankings are needed. Got that off my chest.
Well, just as well you got off your chest, because that was going to technically be what I went to next. Because okay, let me go here. Do you still feel there is a place for a Darren Brutman? I mean, I think there is for Darren, but do you still feel that there's a place for a Darren Bravo, a Jason Mohammed, even a Shannon Gabriel? I know you just said, well, Ravi should be there because Ravi could fill a particular role, and Ravi technically is still very much at the top of his game, right? But when you see like a Jason Mohammed and a Bravo and a Gabriel, are there any it's like, so for example, Keegan Simmons is playing for West Indies Academy, and I'm not against that. But is somebody blocking Keegan Simmons in the TNT side then, for example? Blocking sounds harsh, but do you get where I'm coming from?
Yeah. I look at that as a Trinidadian. I look at that academy. There's Keegan Simmons, Joshua James, and Leonardo Julian, three guys who would have been in contention for this team, right? Had we had proper trials and all of that. I wouldn't go into that. But I would just say on those names in the team that let's just say hypothetically that Sunil Narayan wasn't there or Imran Khan wasn't there. Then who would they turn to for the experienced guys? Who would Puran and Akil Hussein turn to on that team right now on the field for guidance? It would be Bravo and Mohammed, right? And I would say this: Bravo and Mohammed, in their mind, this is my assumption, based on their career and where their age and where they're at, they still harbor some hopes of making runs and getting back into West Indies, right? Does Imran Khan do that? Doesn't Sunil Narayan do that? That's the question. Are they driven by hunger? They do have a point to prove, or are they these talismanic 50 over specialists that can make runs, right? Or that can perform day in, day out to say, we need you and your experience every time. That's the way I look at it. I think, like I said before, Sunil Narayan has opportunities globally. I don't think Jason Mohammed or even Bravo now has that many opportunities globally, and they still have something to offer here, and they can teach guys a lot. So I think they fit in now. Time's ticking for them. That's the honest truth. But they're what we need right now. So for everyone cussing out these guys on Facebook, I see you. They still got something. To go.
Well, that's why I asked you the question, because I've seen the same people. Certain, like the way some people talk, and that's why I was hesitating to make the point. The way some people talk, it's like they don't want Bravo in and around cricket anymore. And I'll never forget when I got Bravo on the podcast, and he said to me that what he feels is lacking who's talking actually wider about West Indies cricket, but he said there's not enough experience around, and people down talk experience like it's not important. And he just said that sometimes he felt that for some of the younger guys in and around the West Indies squads, that when they're going through a lean trot, there's no one to turn to say, well, boy, talk me through how you got through this particular stretch and da-da-da-da-da. And Bravo used the example of when he was coming up, he could turn to Shiv. He could turn to a Chris Gale who could talk him through what needed to happen in his game to turn the corner, so to speak. So I get your point when you say you still need the Bravos around. You still need the Jason Mohammeds around to help guide the youngsters. And I guess speaking of youngsters, let's turn to someone like Jide Gooley. Now, as much as we can say there's some old heads in the team, is Jide Gooley the obvious one to watch in this side?
Yeah, absolutely. It's Jed for me. Jide Gooley is for me. He's played the finisher role in the last game against Windwards. I would like to see him play that role again if possible. We've seen him used differently in the red ball format, maybe a bit more up the order. It's good to see that he can finish. He's a very capable off spinner. He's got to be used in this game, obviously. And I think he just pips out Mark Dial for that spot, right? And I just have to say this publicly. It's known that the relative of Mark Dial is on the selection committee of Trinidad. And then people are going about saying, well, he's been picked by friends and these sort of things. And I will say this about Mark Dial. Mark Dial is an independent player who plays outside of Trinidad in T10 and T20 competitions, if we count CPL as outside of Trinidad, right? And he's making a living in a professional setups independently. That is not given enough worth based on what we are doing. If a guy is being picked off Trinidad domestic, that's a concern for me, right? If Mark Dial is out there plying his trade and whatever he can get, like let's say a Naeem Young, for example, from Barbados, who is out there, playing franchise cricket, I think it has something to be said. Similar for Django, that's why I think he should be there. But for me, Jed Gully is the guy. His time has finally come. The World Cup winner. He's got his very few opportunities, and he's in here now. I hope he can make it count. I think he's the man for the job right now.
Yeah. So there's the one to watch, people. And I guess finally, Dino, as we just bring this one to a close, I've asked this of every kind of expert from each territory, and I'll ask the same to you. We go into what is likely to be ODI World Cup qualifiers in June next year in Zimbabwe. There is absolutely no guarantee. In fact, if I had to bet on it right now, I'd say that West Indies won't make it to the ODI World Cup. If I was betting right now, hopefully things change within the next 6 months and we have a chance, right? But
yeah.
Is there anyone in this TNT side who currently isn't in the ODI lineup that you would like to see try and force their way in? Like, do you see anyone here who potentially has a role that they could play in a West Indies ODI team going forward?
Yeah, man, absolutely. You look at what we have now, it's going to be Puran captain, right? That's what he's contracted to do, right? So you expect Josh De Silva to be in and around there, the Pacers, Seals and Phillip around there. For me, it's going to be about the spinners, Jed Gully, Mark Dial, Yannick Karaya. It's got to be one of these guys have got to get themselves solidly into that team. Akil Hussein is there. So, I would love to see Yannick Karaya. If for the immediate future, that World Cup is 7 months away, that's going to fly like that, right? We need a guy for now. You can't take like a 25-year-old leg spinner second season into Super 50. That's not the guy for the World Cup. You need a guy like Yannick Karaya as your leg spinner. I would say that would be the one I would want to do well. And we need a leg spinner in the 50-over competition. He can bat. If we're going to use him for the next World Cup, fine. But let's look at another specialist leg spinner coming through somewhere. There's one in Jamaica that didn't make the team. We're going to persist with Bully, but let me not get into Marshall's team. But you get what I'm saying. I'm looking for a leg spinner match. A lot of these guys pick themselves here. It's just going to be about consistency. This tournament, we'll see a lot about us and our World Cup teams in terms of, I was glad to see Athanaze get the runs today. That's a big name. He could pip Jed Gully. They're playing for a similar role. So that's the kind of competition I'd like to see. Ross and Chase, they're coming for you, man.
So there we go. There we have it, people. Dino saying let's look to see if Karaya can force his way into ODI contention as well as obviously the T20 contention. Arguably, Dino, and this is for another conversation another day, there's an argument to say they should have kept him in Australia for the Test series, but that's another argument. That's another argument.
And Akil
for another day. Yeah. But let's see if Dino is correct on that front, and that Yannick Karaya puts up some numbers to almost force his way in the other suit of white ball cricket. But listen, Dino, that 25 minutes went by like it was only a 5-minute conversation. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on to look at the TNT Red Force. For those who are listening, watching this, I should say, everything's on the screen in terms of where to go, what to follow, etc. You can find Dino at Crick Dino. It'll be in the description below. That's Twitter and Instagram. Make sure you get following Dino, etc. Get following the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, and most importantly of all, keep watching the Super 50 people, because we've got to see which talented players are staking a claim as we go forward. Last words to you, Dino.
Yeah, just want to shout out to the club I'm with, Clark Road United. We're working hard in the preseason. We're coming for you guys next season. Want to shout out the cricketdraft.com fantasy cricket. I'm doing poorly this time, but I usually whip everyone. Check that out. Big up to the CCP and all the fans. I just love reading all the communications, still even on the go. Great work by you guys. Stay blessed, Mash.
Thank you very much, Dino. And by the way, people, I owe Dino some merch because he actually won the CCP CPL cricket draft. So I have not forgotten that. Dino's just waiting for the new line of merch to come out, and then he's going to tell me what he wants. So yeah, do get following the cricket draft, people, and take part in some fancy cricket. But thanks again, Dino, for coming on. Thanks everyone for listening, and stay locked in for the next CG United Super 50 preview show.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rule seems coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.